Action! Activate!
Hey, what's up? I am Gazbot, and I forgot to fill up my water cup. That's right, no hydration for this robot. But I'm Gazbot. This is Action Activate, and if I'm Gazbot Action Activate, well then this is...
Sorry, you caught me hydrating. It's the big dog.
Shut up! You have me speaking tongues. I'm so enraged. So anyway, hey, welcome to Action Activate, the show where normally, more often than not, we're reviewing episodes of the current season of Power Rangers. Sometimes we do classic episodes. The next episode we were planning on doing was Indie Toku in the form of Shattered Past, episode 5. Life has been crazy for me specifically, for everybody, but and so I wanted to make sure we got an episode. I put up a little poll. It's like, if we're going to do a review, we'll try to do it. But if I could just hop on whenever and ramble with the big dog about stuff, then you definitely get an episode. And the votes are in, and ramble a go-go. So I don't even have a topic. I got nothing. I thought about opening up to like a live Q&A with people, but I felt like we should give more notice if we're going to do a show like that. So
yeah, I guess I can start us with something random. So I don't know what kind of spawned me to do this. My wife, Mrs. Big Dog, has set a goal for herself of I want to say reading 10 books before the end of the year, and she's on book number. Yeah, she's on book like 3 or 4 now on her list. So as I was kind of looking at my backlog of comics, I gave myself a goal of wanting to read 1,000 issues before the end of the year, and when I Yes. Okay. If I do it in a trade, I just count per issue.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So I did when I thought of this, I was like, how many days are left of the year? And coincidentally enough, it was 249. I'm like, very doable. Okay, cool. So average 4 a day. Right now, I think I'm behind by like 1. But obviously
that's the kind of thing where you get like a Saturday and just blast through a couple trades and all of a sudden you're ahead. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I imagine as long as I keep mostly on pace, it should be okay. But it's a thing where I read some of my comics digitally, other ones in paper, and other ones in trade.
That makes me wonder with her thing, do audiobooks count?
She just likes reading them. She's not a huge audiobook person.
Oh, so they would. Okay, so it's not even like they count or don't count. She just wouldn't do it.
I'm sure in this it would count, but part of it is she likes reading before bed to help her fall asleep better and get off her phone.
The tactile sensation of reading as well, but with comics, I always prefer. Like, I very rarely do digital. I just don't like it. But audiobooks more and more have become my go-to because I could do it while I'm doing housework or riding my bike or driving or anything. And so it's either I don't read a book or I listen to it. And I feel like that's better. But to flip it around to get somewhat in the Power Rangers lane a little bit, I moved a couple months ago, well, like 6 months ago now, as some people know, and my comic collection is scattered to the wind. They're not gone, but there's different boxes and who's what's where. And I went through a little bit of it in the last couple days. My Power Ranger collection is still so scattered I couldn't catch up right now if I wanted to. But I did get the almost complete run of Radiant Black, which is the Kyle Higgins book, a Sentai Ultraman kind of thing. Haven't read it yet, but I have 1 through 7, and I don't know where 8 is, and then I have 9 through the current, plus the spin-offs of Radiant Red and the other one. So that'll be the next thing I will be reading, since I'm missing 1 issue that, if I can't find it, I'll just power through. And the other one I thought I found was Last Ronin, the Ninja Turtle book. I'd read issue 1 and I found 2 other issues, but I have 1, 2, and 4. So I don't know where 3 is.
Yeah, and issue 5 finally comes out tomorrow.
I mean, that's doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'll buy it, but
It's funny because you and I'm in a slightly further boat than you, but we're kind of the same. We're like, I was watching some YouTubers who are like, "Oh, issue 5 will finally come out, but who knows if it will because we've been delayed for so many months." And I'm like, I just finished issue 3 the other day,
yeah.
and I still need 4. So I'm like,
That's the advantage of another one. That's another the other series I found all of is Dark Ages, the Marvel book.
that's a
And
fun one.
I remember wanting that, like it was out in previews, and I told my local comic shop I wanted it, and it was a thing where they didn't know what I was talking about because it got delayed and it wasn't showing up, and then eventually, finally, it came out later, and now I have like the first 6 issues or whatever, and I haven't read it, but like everyone's like, oh, this took forever, and I'm like, oh, look, so because we're so far behind, we're never waiting for something to come out, unlike toys.
Yeah.
Toys. I was trying to find a way to, because I want to keep this somewhat Power Ranger-y, but it is a ramble,
Yeah.
There's been a lot of toy news out of Hasbro, who makes Power Ranger toys. Not specifically Power Ranger, but I would like to talk a little bit about the things going on because I think it will affect all of their brands, especially the 6-inch stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Do you want to recap for those that don't?
Is it the pricing?
The pricing, the new packaging.
Yeah. So with Hasbro, kind of what spawned the, I guess, snowball of negativity is the easiest way to put it, where people have had ups and downs with Hasbro the last, honestly, since the dawn of time. But recently, for the Ranger community specifically, what kind of put it to a tipping point, what it feels like anyway, is they had a fan first Tuesday, Thursday, some day that wasn't Friday. And they were like, we're going to talk about Transformers and we're going to talk about Power Rangers. Like, cool. So we have an hour and a half to talk about these. Transformers are first. Okay, cool. And Transformers had an hour. Totally cool. All new reveals. Everything was hunky dory. And then Power Rangers had 13 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't very exciting what they revealed. Like, oh, the other Ninjetti that we knew were coming. And like, yeah.
And they had stuff at the studio that we haven't been talked to about or shown or anything.
I think we touched on this a bit in a previous episode, so I don't want to harp on that part of it too much.
But anyways, they crapped the bed on it. It was just handled poorly.
It was almost like, why bother, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know, actually, I did see a lot of people being upset about it. I did see some people defending it, specifically Bruno from MMPR Toys defending it.
I did see this as well.
And I get his point. His point, I mean, go watch his video, read his post. But in summation, he's like, we don't have to have these fan first reveals. Bandai didn't give them to us. You guys are getting more than you used to, and you're complaining about it. And that's a fair point. And I, in this conversation, I will probably defend Hasbro a few times in different ways.
Same.
But my thought is like, yeah, but I don't need it. I'd rather not have it then. You know what I mean? I guess that's what I'm saying. You're right. This is extra. We don't need it. So like, why waste time doing it?
Yeah, like, why do it poorly if you're either don't do it or do it right? Don't do this kind of half-assed version of it.
Yeah, that's.
So with that, they revealed kind of sweeping, kind of Hasbro mandates, for lack of a better term, where they did another reveal of new Marvel Legends stuff, where they're like, hey guys, guess what? Stuff's going to be really expensive, and we're not going to have windowed packages. So,
good. So what we're looking at here is the wave they were advertising that went up for pre-order, and this is the box art. It's completely sealed. There's no plastic. The idea is to get rid of the plastic. Fine, but it's completely sealed, so you only have a photo of the toy. And it's funny because there's another channel I watch, Spectre Creative, and that guy, he used to work for Mattel doing the Masters Universe classics. He works in the toy industry, but he's also a collector. And he was saying that these reminded him of, I forget what he called it, like mock-ups or production samples or something, where when they would go to a show to sell things, but they weren't ready yet. It was like, hey, would you buy this? They would have a picture and like, this is roughly the size of the box, and that's what they'd have on the table. And he was saying when he saw these, he was like, why are they using those? Like, okay, 3D renders, I guess now they're doing like mock-up packaging or something. But he's like, no, that's the real package. And that's weird for a lot of reasons.
I think so. I'll be honest with how they revealed these. I think they, whether they wanted to or not, alienated both in-box collectors and out-of-box collectors at the same time.
Yes, I think it's worse for inbox collectors, but I think they upset everybody.
Yeah, so inbox collectors, the whole point of it is you like seeing it in the packaging. You kind of ruined that. What they did with Transformers, the same company, is that oh, you're showing. So that's how it used to be.
Because like this is how like any of their figures have some version of this. So that if you want to keep it in box, you like the box art, you can still see the figure, you know, and this is how they've been doing it. This is like the collector friendly packaging, as they call it, which is collector friendly because you can leave it in the box and it still looks nice. You can open it carefully and keep the box, or if you're like us, you can open it and throw it away.
Yeah. What they started doing with Transformers Legacy, their newest Transformers line, is they have a little window cut out, and you could just see the figure.
I'm fine with that.
I am
don't
too.
love it, but I'm fine with it.
It all of these are. I'll be honest. All these have their negatives. Like having exposed figures makes it very easy for people to steal stuff. I get why you wouldn't want to do that, so you'd want to have it enclosed. Having it enclosed makes inbox collectors very mad. And also, if people wanted to figure swap, you have zero way of telling until after the fact.
Yes, and for people that, depending on where you live or how often you collect, you might not think that's a big issue. Both of us have seen it in real life all the time, where it's like you can, and this is a case where you can, sometimes it's like, oh, it's a new Iron Man figure. They put in an old Iron Man figure or a busted Iron Man figure. They took out the accessory. It's wrong. It's still wrong, but it's like, I can kind of see how the person returning it might not notice that. But then sometimes it's like, it says Deadpool and there's like a wrestling figure in it, or, you know, it's just like, it's not even close.
Just egregiously bad.
And you can see it. So if you can't see it at all, there's zero chance anyone's going to care. And also, Rodimus Prime from the previous Transformers wave was in a sealed box. I got mine from Amazon and it was fine. I think that's the thing, is like, if you get it from a reputable seller that just goes, you're probably going to be okay. But it's going to hurt brick and mortar because people had reports of, hey, I bought Rodimus, opened it up, and it had a brick and DVDs in it, or, you know, because it's a sealed box and they don't check. So this is going to make this problem much, much worse.
So there's that where you really don't feel safe unless you're getting it from a reputable place marked as new. Used figures kind of have this weird skewed kind of asterisk on them going forward. And also, I mean,
I didn't even think about that, like on the secondary market.
Yeah.
This is the Transformers packaging, just to be clear too.
Yeah.
So there's no plastic there. It's open air. Mm-hmm. And these are relatively safe because they're kind of strapped down. And you kind of can't see the weapons and stuff. But there was a thing with a Space Jam LeBron James, like 12-inch, that was out in the open, and like everybody kept stealing the heads. I don't know.
No, the heads weren't being stolen. The heads in transit would fall off and then just be lost. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the danger, is if you don't put the plastic in, then that kind of, but also people are more likely to steal or damage, you know, whatever. So this, I think, is a better solution than fully sealed, though, because like you said, it's harder to swap. You can see what you're getting. And the other thing that I think you were getting to is for open box collectors, we don't care about the box so much, but paint apps.
Yeah.
With a lot of these, you get like a weird eyeball or something. You don't know until you get it home and open it. Then it's like, you know, so it's, yeah.
Also, kind of what we were saying of, well, if this is their new thing and there's nothing we can do to change it, then we're going to want to get it from reputable sources going forward. And one of the biggest problems we've had from Hasbro since they launched Pulse is you don't get your stuff from Pulse for like 6 months.
And they also sell out before anybody else.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And I collect, well, I guess I'm going to admit I collect Star Wars, G.I. Joe Classified. I've been saying forever that I don't, because I'm not sure if I want to keep collecting, because I have Super 7 on order. I don't own any of, I own them, but I don't have a single one.
Yeah.
And I've got a huge pile of Classified, 4 of which I've now opened. For a while I wasn't opening them, but I got a Bat and Alley Viper the other day, and I was so excited I just opened them. But so I collect them. Maybe one day I'll sell my collection, but I collect them. And they had a fan G.I. Joe Tuesday today, actually, which I didn't see, but afterwards, and they announced a bunch of figures, and I got a few, but it was like Hasbro. I was a couple hours late because, you know, I didn't watch it immediately. Hasbro was sold out of the figures, so I got it from Target and Amazon. And it's a thing of like, what is the point of Hasbro Pulse, really? You know, like, so I'm not going to be getting them from Hasbro. So then it's Target or Amazon. Now, Amazon is safer because theoretically it's going from Hasbro to Amazon to you.
Yeah.
And Target online, you would think it's better, but what if somebody returns it and then you get it? Now, the figures I got, as far as I know, they're still the window box, because that's what they showed. And the same thing for Black Series, the Star Wars Black Series are still showing window box. But I guess you can call the Marvel Legends like a trial. Them and the Transformers are like the 2 new packaging, and see what works out. And it just makes sense that whether it's money or eco-consciousness or a combination of
That's
the
what
two.
they claimed it was eco-consciousness a
I
couple
think it's a
years ago.
combination of the two, to be honest, because companies, they don't care that much, like they want to look like they're caring, but I think money is part of it, and whatever. But we don't know their motivations, but money and eco-consciousness are the two that are floated. And so whichever of these packages works out, you can imagine they're going to spread it over the entire line. But the other thing is, forgetting about the future and where it goes, if I was an inbox Marvel Legends collector, and I've seen some say this, like they have their lineup from the beginning or from a year ago, or all the Spider-Man or whatever it is they collect, and now like the new Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man is not going to fit in with the rest of their inbox collection. It's not a slight variation this year or a new color. And they even had, like, because it's based on the original line from Toy Biz, and the other ones of that look different. So it doesn't, like, it breaks the collection. And this is, maybe they don't understand this, but as a collector slash addict, like once something kind of snaps you back to reality, that's dangerous for the people that want you to keep buying, because you're like, well, I got to get all of them. And then every now and then, whether it's a video game I'm playing on my phone or a toy line I'm collecting or whatever, every now and then something will happen where, like, oh, the game was down for 2 days, or, oh, I couldn't get that the next issue of the comic or whatever. And you didn't get it. And it kind of breaks the streak. And you're like, you know what? I don't care anymore. And you stop playing the game, or I stop collecting. And I could see a lot of Marvel Legends collectors getting to this point and being like, they're more, we didn't even talk about the price. They're so much more expensive, and they don't match my collection. And then even if they go back,
pull up the Spider-Man ones really quick.
If I still have them, I don't. Give me a minute, I'll find them.
So one thing, kind of the biggest sticking point I've seen, everything that we've talked about so far is valid, but just kind of like you said, going analytical and cut and dry, what we're going to get is just the most egregious price hike I've ever seen.
Yeah. And they've already hiked it. It's like a hike on top of a hike. Like we've had since 2020. I think this is like the third price hike. Am I wrong about that?
Is at least the third, yeah.
Okay.
So the top left is a deluxe figure.
This is deluxe?
Iron Spider? It's $33.
But what makes it deluxe?
The back.
It's ridiculous.
Similar to the Boba Fett. It's the same thing.
Well, that was ridiculous too. but I mean, we've gotten Doc Ock for regular price, and he has more plastic, arguably. What they're calling deluxe figures seems completely random. And especially because the Iron Spider body is probably all reused, just repainted differently.
So he's 33.
Yep.
The next three, I believe, are 28.
This one, and this one. And again,
I was going to say, I think the first appearance Ditko one is different. Like, it might be new. The one on the left is a remold.
Yep.
And the one on the bottom is a remold, repaint.
Yeah. And this Spider-Ham is like a statue. It's not a figure.
And they already came out with it, so it's just a re-release.
Right.
And then this is the one that really I don't understand.
If previously this set would have been between $40 and $60.
Yes.
Like, a year or two ago. If prices are now, the average figure, what did you say was $28 for like a regular release? So let's say we count them as deluxe figures, because the wings and whatever. Let's say they're deluxe, because who knows why they're deluxe. That would be $66 for 2 deluxe figures, right? Still very high, but okay. But that's not what it costs, is it?
No, this is between $80 and $85.
Right. And if you're like, I don't care about Marvel Legends, you should care, because it applies to Power Rangers, Star Wars, Transformers, any of that stuff. It's one company. They're just trying stuff out and pushing prices. And, going back to G.I. Joe, the figures I bought that I pre-ordered, well, that's a whole other thing. Of all the pre-orders for all of these lines, you have to buy them like 6 months, a year out. And you have like all this money tied up in a collection that you're not even getting. Again, going back to like the breaking the cycle of like, do I really want this stuff? I'm like, because normally you buy the thing, you go, oh, this makes me happy. Now you buy the thing and you forget about it. And now you just don't have the money, but you don't have the happiness until like next year it shows up. You're like, oh yeah.
You kind of care, yeah.
Right. And if you don't, then that's going to be the figure like, oh, I didn't get that. And now it's an $80 figure because I didn't get it. But yeah, this is going to be all company wide eventually. But G.I. Joe, the figures I ordered had the old packaging, and I want to say they were $22.99 each through Target. And
that was the first price hike.
Yes, that was the first price hike, and they're still at that. Part of it is because they don't have a build to figure, and part of it is I don't know, but it's I remember when I got them for that, because at Big Bag Toy Store, I think they were like 24. So Big Bag Toy Store is always a buck or two more. And I was like, oh, wow, they're only $22.99, which is, again, $3 more than they were like 2 years ago. But that's the cheap version now. And it's even at that, they released 6 figures, 3 exclusives for Target and 2 and 3 regular. And the exclusives are Tiger Force. They're like repaints, but they're doing this thing where they're putting out the repaints before the original figures, which is actually kind of a smart thing to do. I got 2 of the Tiger Force, but I didn't get the third because I'm like, and because of price, and I know they're going to go up, and it's even though GI Joe still is only at $22.99 for this exact moment. I feel like it's going to change the next time they. I'm already thinking. I kind of was almost a completist. Like there was a few I was missing, but like kind of like with Power Ranger, I was talking about this, where like I was almost a completist. But when I thought about, well, even if I'm completist at $20, I might completist at $23, and I know they're going to be getting up close to 30 soon. At $30, I'm not going to be a completist. So I'm already thinking like I'm not going to get all of them, even though we're not there, because I see what's happening with Marvel Legends. So I didn't get Tiger Force Bazooka, even though I love Bazooka. I'm like, well, I'll get the regular Bazooka when he comes out. I don't need Tiger Force Bazooka. And what was the other one? They had Zorana, which I got because she's one of my favorites. And then they had Crimson Guard and Dusty. I got 1 Crimson Guard. Previously, I would have got at least 2 because he's a troop builder. But I'm like, well, I'll get 1, and maybe if I see one on sale, because again, I'm not going to be troop building the way I was when they were $20, you know. And then Dusty, who is another one of my favorites, but I don't love this version of him the way they did it. It's not perfect, and I'm like, well, better than nothing. And they're like, no, it's $23. There's going to be lots of characters that I'm not going to be getting when they're 25, 28. So might as well start now. Maybe if I see them on clearance. And so it is a weird thing where like the stuff they're doing in Marvel is affecting my buying in GI Joe. You know what I mean? And
it's just affecting everything.
Yeah, and it's. I saw somebody. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I have heard that Hasbro is posting like record profits, and yet they're hiking up prices. That thing of like a normal company like Todd McFarlane. Well, I shouldn't say normal company.
I was going to get to that. That was my segue.
Okay, you tell that. I've been talking for a while. You talk about it.
Before we do, your mic keeps bouncing and making noise. I don't know if you could secure it at all.
I will attempt to do that. Just tighten a few things. Hope it works.
Because I kept hearing dong dong dong.
I'm banging the table. Is this it?
No, I know. Try saying something on a soapbox.
Hi, I'm standing on a soapbox, and I really hate soap.
Much better. So the thing is, Hasbro owns a majority of the 6-inch scale market. But then their biggest competitor, I'm not going to say their biggest, one of their biggest competitors is McFarlane Toys, who puts out his Spawn figures and his DC figures, which are 7-inch scale.
Mortal Kombat.
And, thank you. And Mortal Kombat. And the funny thing, they put out other stuff, but those are the big 3. The funny thing about it is, and he said this from the get-go, and I was like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And now he's laughing himself to the bank. They're 7-inch scale, so by definition, they're bigger.
Right.
They don't always come with the most accessories. I'll give them that. Some figures are kind of basic, but for certain molds, I get it. And they use molds or repaints in a reasonable way, in my opinion.
They do a lot of that, but I don't mind. Well, I'm not. First of all, full disclosure, I'm not collecting those lines.
Yeah,
but I still look at them as though if I was collecting. And a lot of the remolds and the repaints, like, oh, here's the gold version, or here's the all gray version. I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't feel like, oh, I have to get it. So the people that want it, great. And similarly, like they'll release Batman without a mask and then with a mask. And it's like, well, I could pick one, So like, I don't actually have an issue with any of that because it's not like, Hasbro will do that, but make the repaint like, oh, this is a different character, like it's Venom, but with a different host, and it's impossible to get. That makes me nuts. But if it's just, hey, this is Venom, and here's a all silver Venom that never really existed, and it's easy to get, then great. And that's what Todd seems to be doing.
Or was in like an issue, and you kind of care or you don't, kind of thing. Yeah. So all that in mind, there's 2 kind of ones, or there's 3 main kind of figures and price points. There's regular figures, regular figures in a bath wave that are 3 to 5 figures for the full wave,
and they're spread out.
No, not always.
The McFarlane stuff.
Oh, you mean the releases or the waves?
The releases. It seems like he doesn't.
Oh,
I could be wrong with this, so correct me. But my impression is if there's, let's say, there's 4 figures in the Build-A-Figure wave, they don't hit the shelf at the same time. It's like
yes, they do.
here's one. They do. I thought it was released
One of
every
them,
month.
one of them didn't. That was only for the Batman Beyond one.
Okay, I guess I thought that's how they all did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they all come out, but they're very reasonable amount to get a cool Build-A-Figure that you could take or leave sometimes depending on the character. And then they have these deluxe figures that are really big. Like they just made a clay
Like
face, they made a Titan Joker, they made Swamp Thing, and those are $40 for an enormous figure, bigger than
Right.
most Build-A-Figures we're getting from Hasbro.
Right.
And the regular figures, $20. The Build-A-Figure ones, $25. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, look at these prices that are fairly reasonable. And like, okay, I can get behind that. And he's very transparent about it, and everything's been consistent. And he even said, because the only real kind of hindrance he's hitting with DC is DC has this new policy about weapons
Yeah.
where they won't let you have guns with figures.
Yeah, and that's been commented on elsewhere. And regardless of your stance on pro, anti-gun in real life, whatever, because we're not trying to be political, but
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
if you have a character, the Joker, Punisher, well, let's do Punisher because I can't think of a good DC character. You can't sell the Punisher without guns. Anybody buying a Punisher figure likes this guy who shoots guns. No one's like, what's this gun? And these are $20 figures. Yes, kids might buy them, but usually parents are going to buy them for the kid or adults are going to buy them. But again, and there are the example I saw somebody pointing out was, meanwhile, it's on the shelf next to Baraka, made by McFarlane Toys, that has like a brain severed on like the shiv, and like they could have swords and blood, and like if it was like we don't want any violence associated with our brand, okay, you're allowed to do that. But it seems so capricious and random. And
It's like, here are a bunch of swords and knives, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, and it seems very again, especially with the characters that are known for having guns. It's just weird. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like how, and Hasbro got away from this thankfully, where for a while all of their guns were like Nerf guns, and then everybody was like, please stop doing that.
I don't know. The beginning of G.I. Joe Classified, there was a lot of things people didn't like, and they adjusted, and they won people over, like myself. One of the things I heard, I mean, I don't know if it was like an anti-violence or don't give kids gun things, I don't know. But one of the things I heard was that they own the rights to all these Nerf designs, and so it's literally like a scaled down version of the guns that they sell. So it wasn't so much of like anti-gun for the thing and more of like synergy. Like, ooh, look, Duke has the same gun you could buy. And isn't that cool? And I think that's maybe what they were going for, but it failed.
Yeah. Yeah. But the cool thing, and shout out to McFarlane for when this comes out, is I heard in a recent interview with him or live stream or what have you, he was like, he was asked, because like obviously the elephant in the room, like, hey, there's all these cool characters from DC, but like Red Hood has a crowbar and no guns, and one of the Red Hood figures literally has finger guns. And it's like, okay. And they're like, are you guys gonna like do something? Are you gonna have a special release or weapons packs? He's like, and he addressed it. I'm paraphrasing obviously, but he's like, McFarlane Toys will be selling weapons packs. I want to be clear, they're not DC weapons or for DC, right, but they're figures that fit for our scale of toys, and the consumer can do what they want with them.
And because he's got Spawn in Mortal Kombat, it's plausible deniability there. Yeah, that's.
And I'm like, thank you.
What I've seen a lot of people saying is like, oh, did you get this figure? Well, there's an extra gun that came with that figure. Give it to that kind of, which is just so silly. Like, it's just a weird. Yeah, it's just weird.
It's one of those things where we kind of got sidetracked there, but the point is like, I don't know what excuses Hasbro's making, because again, the prices are going up, but we're not seeing any changes.
Well, this is what I was, and again, I don't know anything for real. This is based on things I'm guessing, bits and pieces of things I hear people say online. We don't really know, but this makes sense to me when I hear and repeat this, that putting aside what you think of Todd McFarlane as a person, because some people don't like him, and that's fair. He owns his company, and he's the one that answers for everything, and he's the one that has to be happy with the money he's making. Hasbro has a president, but like there's no Mr. Hasbro. You know what I mean? It's stockholders, and they want to make a return on their investment, make money. So, and this is the problem with a lot of businesses that get to a certain point, is like you can't be successful enough sometimes, where it's like, oh, we're making money. We make $1 million a year. Well, we got to make more than $1 million. We made $1 million last year. And to a certain extent, I understand that and it makes sense. But it gets to a point where you're now trying to make money for people who aren't in the building, aren't making the toys, but they just own a stock, and they're like, my stock needs to be worth more next year, or I'm selling it. And I think that might be what's happening over the pandemic. Sales went up because people were stuck at home and people started collecting, and for whatever reason, sales went up. And now they're like, well, not only do we have to keep making that profit, but it has to go up even higher. And so I do think that there are shortages, and I do think there are problems with shipping, and I do think plastic goes up. But I think instead of eating that cost, which is maybe what Todd's doing, I don't know, but instead of going, well, instead of making $10 a figure, I'm going to make $7 a figure, but we're still making a profit. Instead of doing that, they're passing the cost directly to the consumer. And I think that's what the first hike or two was. But I think then there's also the greed hike of like, well, also we want to make sure we do better than we did last year, so let's hike it again. And so it's just, but they're pricing people out because it's like, oh, we're not selling as much, so let's hike up the price. So then we're not going to sell as much. So let's hike it. We're pretty hardcore collectors, and
Yep.
not that we're rich, but we have enough disposable income to waste on these toys, and we're still like, we're the target audience. We want to buy all these toys, and arguably we could, but it's getting to the point where like maybe we can't. And more importantly, even if I literally have the money to buy them, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Spend all my money on these 4 figures. It's. And yeah, it's the G.I. Joe thing. Like, I know I keep harping on it, but that was kind of a big deal today. I didn't get Dusty. I thought for sure I was going to get Dusty. I only got 1 troop. I thought for sure, like with the Cobra Troopers and the Vipers that were so hard to get, I have like 3 each. I was like, oh, and I got 1 Crimson Guard. That says something.
It's an interesting argument where obviously for most toys, prices have gone up overall.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I think of directly to what we're talking about for Black Series and Marvel Legends is a lot of times there's kind of this age-old argument online where some people are in one camp and some are another of, oh, I get Marvel Legends because they're great for the price, they're so good, and $20 a figure, I can fill out these whole teams, and that is the way. And other people are like, oh, I get the import figures from SH Figure Arts or Mafex or Mezco. Mezco's not imported, but they're high-end figures. And this is the best version of it. And if you don't get this, your Marvel Legends are trash and blah, blah, blah. And one of the biggest arguments was, well, I could get 5 of these figures for 1 of your figure, or 4 or 1. And now it's like, how much better is Marvel Legends if it's only a third of the price, half the price, stuff like that? It's like,
and those high-end ones are going up in price too, but not as fast.
Yeah, like a $100 figure versus a $30 figure is a very different conversation than a $20 figure versus a $100 figure. Yes, it's only $10, but if you're looking at the extrapolation, it's like, oh, well.
And especially if you're not a completist, if you're like, oh, I just want the Avengers, or I just want the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I just want, like on a couple of my favorites. If you're not a completist, then it's like, oh, well, I could get these 5 figures that are the best possible versions for $100 each, or these ones are like 30, maybe even more if they're deluxe figures. And yeah, it hits both ways of, in bulk, if you're buying a ton, it adds up. And if you're just picking and choosing, yeah, like
why not wait a little bit longer and get the best version?
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't have a lot of SH Figure Arts, but the ones I do are like, oh, well, some I got on sale, but it's like, oh, I have the Mighty Morphin Rangers, and I have Samurai because I love Samurai, and a couple other of my favorites. And at the time, Lightning Collection wasn't around, but there were other options. But it was like, well, these are expensive, and I'll just buy the ones I like. But yeah, like if they had Lightning Collection and they had Gold Samurai, and he was like $30, or I could get 60 in the SH Figure Arts, like, I'll just get the SH Figure Arts and have like the best version of this character. Like,
exactly. Yeah, it's definitely a weird spot, and we say this. I feel like we have to put this disclaimer on like every show now, but like if we didn't care, we wouldn't be here. And it's so frustrating where we literally are in a spot of like, take our money, but not all of it, you greedy a-holes. Like, I don't.
Yeah. And again, putting aside production quality errors, putting aside packaging that we might not like, putting aside price hikes, putting aside everything else. And I don't know how to fix this. This is something that maybe they're not, they can't do anything about. Fair enough. And it's not just Hasbro. Other companies do Super 7s like this. But Hasbro is, again, the big one. So you notice the most. Their pre-orders are so far out. It's disheartening. And like we both watch the Foosh with Robo, and he always talks about like, oh, like, yeah, we can complain, but it's all about having fun. If you ain't having fun, what you doing? And it's like, and it's becoming less and less fun because even if you get the figure you want at a price you could live with and whatever, and you're getting it, but again, it's like, okay, here's my $30, and I feel like I'm just throwing it into the wind. I didn't get fun out of that. I got the
And
stripes.
hoping
Oh
for
my
the
gosh,
best.
what?
And hoping for the best.
Yeah, I hope this pre-order. I hope I get there in time to make the pre-order. I hope when it comes, it's in good condition, and I hope it doesn't get canceled. And for some people, I hope the box doesn't get smashed. I don't care about that, but other people do.
Yeah.
And then it's like 6 months to a year, and you forget it even happened. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. It.
Oh, a perfect example is I just got an email today from Hasbro Pulse because back at some point when Lunar Wolf was announced for Power Rangers Wild Force, I ordered him. Again, that was a case where they really, this was when I was deciding I wasn't going to collect every Power Ranger, but Lunar Wolf, a wolf, one of my favorites. Okay, I'm going to get him. And I ordered it. And like, meanwhile, I've been seeing it show up at stores and other people have it. And like, I guess I have it on order. And now I got an email, hey, yours is coming soon. Going back to your point of like, I ordered it from Hasbro and I'm getting it months after everyone else. And apparently there's 3 variations of like the stripe and the boot and stuff. So I don't even know what version I'm getting. So, and I can't look at it and hold it and pick the one I want. So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, there's a channel I discovered recently. I think it's Sound Out 12 or something similar to that. And he did this phenomenal video at the end of last year where he's a big Hasbro collector. What?
Was it more phenomenal?
It was. He did a breakdown of the Lightning Collection releases last year, and he went through and kind of gave a rating and was very candid about it. And he kind of did a glass shatter effect for me, where he's like, I think part of the reason that all of these figures are so inconsistent and we get so frustrated is that teams work on waves and not teams of Rangers. Because like he used SPD and like every single one is different except for 2.
Which were on the same wave.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, the helmet's goofed on these 3, the morphers goofed on all of them, the hands are goofed here, the weapons are goofed here, and he's like, and it's another thing of like, if they said in that last live stream, if they just address it and they're like, the prices are going up on these, but here is a figure we put out 2 years ago that looks great, and here is one that looks even better, and here's why it's more. You go, okay. Like if they showed an eye guy that's just painted to the 9s, and they're like, this is $40.
If they had to raise the price $5 a figure, but for $2 more, they could make them better, then raise it $7 and say, but you're getting, and it takes this thing out. Yeah, because we don't feel like we're getting anything better. If anything,
we're not getting anything better. We're arguably getting things worse.
I have not seen, nor did I order the Ninjetti Tommy figure.
But I haven't gotten any of those.
I haven't either, but Tommy and Billy were the 2 I was thinking about. It like, not that I was going to get them, but if I saw them, maybe, and I've heard a lot of bad things about Tommy. I've heard that the face paint is all bizarre and off, which you hear from time to time, but I think it's like common in this one. And I've complained before about all my Pink Rangers having like weird different colored pinks. And apparently the white Tommy has it, like the joints are a different color and stuff. And it's like on a figure like that, where it's just all white, you can't mess that up. You know what I mean? If it's Captain America and the white on the chest is different than the arm, that's a bummer, but it's like, okay. But if you got Moon Knight or you got white Ninjetti and it's all white, it better match, like that's such a, and if they can't get the right plastic, then wait and release it later. Or if they have to charge an extra $1, then charge an extra $1. Because this goes back to the thing, nobody wants to pay more money, but if we're getting into those premium prices, then make sure it's at least as good as it used to be, if not better.
And it's a thing too, where granted, we know nothing about the ins and outs of the toy industry, but I can't imagine for how much they're hiking these prices, those little changes can't be fixed. Like monsters are a prime example. I saw somebody post an eye guy that looked amazing, and everybody's like, "Oh, what'd you do?" He's like, "I literally put a black wash on it.
Black wash, yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
that's all I did was." Bloop.
Yeah.
What is it? Similar. Yeah. Was that cost 15 cents? Like I didn't know.
Yeah. But going back to the other thing about not understanding how the toy industry works, your point about people working on waves and not teams makes sense. It's a bummer though. You would think, well, if you're in that, like, wouldn't you be in that job for a couple of years? Like, but maybe the turnover is really high. I don't know. But I always come back to, like, I understand not everyone knows Power Rangers, but not recently, but I've worked in a bunch of studios on like kid shows and things that I had no idea about and didn't really care about. Honestly, it was an art job, so I liked that, but I wasn't like, oh my gosh, Ellen's Acres, woohoo, But like, I would look at like the design sheets to see what the characters look like. Or one of the big things, like you'd have to give them a prop and make sure it was the right size in their hand. So I'd look at how big is, just like you don't need to know this stuff. It's part of your job to look at the reference. And I find it hard to believe that someone could look at a picture, you just get a still from the show, or a costume shot from Saban or Bandai, or whoever's doing it. You get some kind of reference sheet for each character, I'm sure, or you make your own. Then you just copy. You just make sure it matches. Like, I don't understand.
I don't understand, and we've brought this up numerous times. This can't be that hard. If somebody has an argument that's valid, please put in the comments, but I'm going to probably disagree with you. I don't understand how Hasbro doesn't have a fan council or council something,
right? Just to give it a once over.
Where before things come out, you get an agreement on both sides where you get first dibs at reviewing. That will ship it directly to you for a sample. If you have a YouTube channel or a website or something, you sign an NDA going in, and they say, we're just about done. This is like 85% done. Is there anything goofed here?
Yeah.
And they go, yup, this. And they go, great. You saved them thousands of dollars and people like us complaining, and you get something first. You get to review it, so it pumps you up. And what are we doing? Oh, talking about these toys, getting people interested in them so they actually want to buy them. That's freaking weird.
Yeah, and many people have said this, not just us. It just makes sense. And there are tons of people that would jump at the chance to do it. And before people talk about, well, there are production errors, like I'm not yes, quality control could be better, but that's not what I'm talking about. I don't think either. Excuse me, because if it's something is off register or the eyes got painted weird, we don't know the story.
We're not talking about that. Yeah,
we're talking about decisions, like if a buckle is supposed to be silver and they paint it white, or if they're supposed to have black boots, they have like those kind of things where it's just objectively wrong, even if the factory does everything right. Like, how did that get approved all the way down the line? And maybe because they have a million things they have to be looking at, and I guess, but then have someone at the end who's just a fan, like he said, that just like, oh yeah, no, they're supposed to be blue or they're supposed to be black or whatever. And as long as it's just, because usually it is a paint thing. Sometimes it's sculpting, but usually it's just paint. So if it's just a paint thing, like, okay, just, and I don't really, neither of us know about the toy industry, but we both watch a lot of behind the scenes videos and interviews with people. And so I do see things, and I've backed Kickstarters and stuff where like they get the production sample from the factory and like, oh, this wrong is this, and they send it back. So it goes back and forth a few times. Then they get a painted sample so they can get the painted sample and go, oh, this is wrong. And part of that is to make sure that the factory's doing what they asked for. But it also, you have a minute in there where you can be like, oh, could you add this gold stripe? Maybe that costs another $1,000, or maybe that costs, but less than having to redo a whole wave or having everybody complain, or, and I mean, hopefully you don't even get that far, but there's a back and forth, is my point.
They've already shown that they will admit when they're wrong, but they've only done it once with the Dino Thunder White head, where they're like, this is so bad, we'll literally give you a new one.
Yeah.
Like,
but
I don't get.
They had other wrong heads. Like, did they do Lost Galaxy Blue? Did they do that with him? I know
they fixed it. Yeah, they showed the image. Everybody freaked out in there, and then when it released, it was actually correct.
Okay, and if there's time, that's great. But was there another instance of something egregiously wrong that they did not address?
Everybody, myself included, is upset about SPD Pink's helmet, but not to the point that like they've done anything about it, because I don't think anybody cares.
Not A Squad, B Squad.
B Squad, correct.
What was the error? I don't remember, because I have.
It doesn't have trimming around the visor like everybody else.
Something that could be fixed with a paint.
And people are like, yeah, I used a whiteout little marker thing for it. And I'm like, yeah, but you shouldn't have to. So
agreed. Anytime someone's like, all you gotta do is fix this, it's like, true, but you're right, you shouldn't have to. And that's an example too, where if they decided to skimp out on the trim of that helmet, let's say, which is a mistake, and I don't think they should do it, then you skimp out on all of them. Because the only thing worse to me than being wrong is, like you said, not
everything is mixed mash.
Yeah, make the team look like they match. And this goes back to me as an artist. Like, I want to say this is Jack Kirby. Somebody said this, or like with superhero art or any art, there's a thing of like, it doesn't have to be right. It just has to look right. And so like, if you draw a wonky elbow, if it's a mistake on one guy, it sticks out. But if you draw everybody with wonky elbows, it's kind of your style and nobody notices it after a while. And so if you mess up all the SPD helmets, that's less bad than messing up one, because then, well, they match, as opposed to, well, that one's obviously wrong, like, so.
Yeah. It's a thing too, where I understand why they don't want to put whole teams in waves, or like two waves in a row or something. I get that. But this, again, doubles down on, if you're going to split them up, then I'm not going to buy them all if they all look jacked and like not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when Hasbro got the rights, we were so stoked. We were like, there's all
Yeah.
these things they're doing right, they're learning, things are getting better. And it seems like with Power Rangers specifically, for the most part, it's really just been more negatives than positives.
I don't agree with that.
I would
I agree
overall.
that I was more enthusiastic in the beginning than I am now, but I don't. This is where I felt like I might defend Hasbro a little bit, and we're gonna have to wrap up soonish. But I think Bandai did legacy stuff better. First of all, they had more. It was cheaper. It was better quality. It was everything legacy Bandai put out. Just about I got. Just about. I don't think I've gotten a single legacy Hasbro thing. I know they don't
Oh,
call
you're
it
talking
legacy.
about like props and stuff
Props and
because
Megazords.
Legacy Collection was everything.
You're right. I'm sorry. All the props or the Megazords, all the high end collectibles Bandai put out were cheaper, better. Just everything about them was better. The Legacy Collection, like the 6.5-inch figures or whatever scale, they weren't quite 6-inch. I think all of the Hasbro figures are better. There are quality control issues and stuff, but the more realistic they're trying to make them what they're supposed to be, and they fail sometimes, but on average they're better. And the amount of figures and the deep cuts they've done and the different size, shapes, and things and a couple vehicles, they have done better than Bandai in that. So I think you could make. I would find it hard for anybody to argue that the Legacy collectible 6-7-inch line was better than the Lightning Collection. I mean, maybe somebody could argue that, but there was QC issues with that the Bandai one too. I think where Hasbro is failing is in the retail stuff for the shows, for Beast Morphers, for Dino Fury, the standard for kids, like mass produced. Well, it's all mass produced, but mass market just for everybody. That's where they're falling short, I think. But like the strong point is the 6-inch figures. The legacy stuff is like not so great, and I feel So I guess for who I am and what I mostly collect, which is the 6-inch figures, I feel like I still prefer Hasbro to have the license.
Well, here's the thing: is since Hasbro took over, what have you gotten from mainline?
When Beast Morphers was out, I had gotten the whole team and the Morpher. Then I got rid of the team. Well, or I don't know if I got rid of it, but it's in the pile to get rid of because they released most of them in Lightning Collection, although we're still waiting for Zoe and Steel, but and Roxy. Right. But with Dino Fury, I think I got nothing. The only thing I might have gotten was some of the Megazords. But I had the Japanese version of the main one, and yeah.
So the point I'm going for is with Bandai, everything you said, I understand, but with them, we just going from personal experience, we're pretty like 90% in with mainline. When Dino Charge was out, I remember us hunting for those all the time.
Yes.
We would get most, if not all, of the Zords because they were great, even compared to the Japanese.
Nope. I didn't get any Dino Charge Zords at all.
Okay, I did.
Okay, and that's fine. I just want to be clear. Here's what in Dino Charge, I got all of the like Super Dino Drive figures. I got all of those and some of the villains. That's what I got. So certainly more in than in the other ones, but don't make it seem like I got everything. And I didn't even get the Morpher because I got the Japanese one that you got.
So true, but right now, because of the way that Hasbro has stuff skewed, we don't really have the same kind of Japanese options that we did before. We do, but like obviously at a premium. But at the time, the Morphers, both mainline and legacy, were great. We would usually be in on those.
We were hunting the American Ranger keys though. Long after Super Mega Force, we were still hunting those.
Yeah, we were getting the Ranger keys. The Dino Chargers were hit or miss. They weren't really for us, but I'm not going to say they were a fail. Like they were still something to get. You and I didn't really get into Ninja Steel, but we got some stuff. Mostly because we just didn't really like Ninja Steel.
Oh wait, no, that's not true. I got gold. I got all 3 versions of gold.
Yeah, like I attribute that to us not caring about the season unless that the toys were bad. We were just kind of whatever.
Yeah.
We did Legacy Zords.
Something to consider too, though, is around the time Hasbro took over is around the time Toys R Us went out of business.
Also true.
I remember getting Ninja Steel gold at Toys R Us. And I think by the time Beast Morphers came around, no more Toys R Us. So that makes a big difference.
That is a good point. Yeah. That is a good point. The long drawn out point I was trying to make was with Bandai, we at least dabbled in everything. And I feel like with Hasbro, really the only thing we get is Lightning Collection 6-inch figures, and everything else, like us and
I
everybody
did,
else, doesn't
yeah.
care.
I did dabble in Beast more first, and I will say I generally agree with what you're saying, but I will say I do prefer the, just like with the Lightning Collection, with the standard, kids release, for lack of a term, I prefer the proportions of the Hasbro figures where they're not all roided out like squat guys. That being said, I understand how people that have been collecting that style for X amount of years might be like, well, these don't match now. So I get that too. But all of that being said, in terms of just the 6-inch figure, I still prefer Hasbro. Everything else, you are making valid points, but like for me, I got all the legacy, the props and the Zords and stuff that I would want. I already have from Bandai. Now, I also understand people are just getting to the collection now and don't have that opportunity, and Hasbro isn't really servicing them as well. But I can't speak to that because that's not where I'm at.
We both got everything Legacy Collection because that was the line. Whether we liked it or had issues with it, we were all in on those waves.
Yeah. I bought every single figure.
We are not that way with Lightning Collection, and
I was that way. I was that way for the first year or two.
What changed?
A little bit of quality, a little bit. Well, because I've been getting like Pink Rangers that don't.
No. I'm not knocking you. I'm listening.
A little bit of quality, a little bit of how, as much as it's like people complain they don't come out fast enough, a little bit with how many were coming out so fast. As someone who collects, if I only collected Power Rangers, it wouldn't be a problem. But as someone who collects other stuff, it's like, oh, there's like 6 new Power Rangers, 6 new Star Wars figures, 6 new this, and I had to make some choices. And also, every time I bought a Lightning Collection figure at retail, and then 6 months later saw it for $10 or $5, I'd be kicking myself. So it became a thing where like I'm going to buy the ones I really want and love, and then the ones that I kind of want, I'll get when I get. And then there's some that if I never get, that's fine. A good example is the B Squad or the A Squad from SPD. I got blue because he came in a pack with Sky. I don't have any of the others. I kind of don't care. Would it be nice to have all of them? Fine. Yeah. But it's also shelf space is part of it too. If I only have room for 5 Rangers, I'd rather have 5, main character Rangers than beat A Squad.
I think there, to the original point, are unfortunately a lot more speed bumps than we think because we love Power Rangers so much in the way of this collection and our collecting than Hasbro seems to realize. And like you said, I feel like are in the top kind of 10 to 20% of Power Ranger fans / collectors of what we're willing to get. And
because a lot of times in comments, I mean, just the sample size of our video, but also just the MMPR is like the thing, like I'm wearing the shirt of it, but like MMPR isn't even my favorite season. And I have all the MMPR I need, I'm not anti MMPR, but it's like, I don't need to add that at all. And like, we're the ones that are like, yeah, where's Jungle Fury? And we're Samurai, so yeah. And I know you want Operation Overdrive, obviously. So it just, I don't know, but we do have to wrap. Unfortunately, we don't have answers. We just have questions.
Yeah. Do better, Hasbro. That's all I have to say.
So hopefully next week we're back with a normal review of Shattered Past. But thanks if you stuck around with our rambling. We didn't know what we were going to talk about, and we complained about toys the whole time. That seems kind of on brand for us.
We talked about comics ever so briefly.
We did. What's funny is I feel like the people that would be interested in the toy talk might have skipped this episode when for 5 minutes we were rambling about whatever. And then other people are like, oh, it's a bunch of different stuff. And they might have checked out during the toy talk. I feel like there's like 5 people that are like, I'm into this all the way through. And to you 5.
And thank you.
Thank you. But until next time, I have been Gazbot.
Still Big Dog.
And
to the power.
I didn't say end credits, but I did now.
It's all good. Hey, look. Toys not made by Hasbro that we were enjoying at the time.
Yeah, those are all Bandai, actually.
What a world.
What a world! What a world!
A hat I no longer have, a hair color you're not currently rocking, and a vest I'm sure you still own.
I do. I wore it not too long ago. That hair color, it's coming back. I haven't like it. Yeah, it's coming back.
Until it's suppressed once again.
Until it's suppressed once again. All right, I'll see you next week, dude.
Later.
Bye, everybody.